Just so thrilled to welcome all of you here to Sinai Temple and to have in our synagogue the one and only Montana Tucker.
Thank you so much for having me.
I hope you're feeling the love already.
Yes.
I, first of all, want to explain that when I shared with people that you were coming, the first thing I said is that we hold such gratitude to you. As we'll speak more through our dialogue, you have always been a voice, willing to stand up and to stand out for our people, just with such love and compassion and poise and grace and courage. And so on behalf of Sinai Temple and the Jewish community of Los Angeles, of which I know you love as well, we say thank you.
Thank you. You're amazing. Thank you so much. I've heard such incredible things about Sinai Temple, so to be here is really special. So thank you all for having me and for coming tonight.
It means we have to be on our best behavior. So I just want to share a little bit about Montana. She's an award-winning actress, singer, dancer, philanthropist, and social media activist with nearly 14 million followers. She is a prominent advocate for combating anti-Semitism and promoting inclusivity. Her work's been recognized by organizations like FIDF, Magen David Adom, Hatzalah, the National Holocaust Museum. She recently received honors from New York City Mayor Eric Adams and the city of Beverly Hills. We are going to speak more during our dialogue about her educational online docuseries, How to Never Forget, which documents her emotional journey to Poland, culminating in a visit to Auschwitz where her great-grandparents were murdered. This series has been widely acclaimed. It was nominated for a Webby Award. It has garnered significant media attention, including attention from Good Morning America, Extra TV, The Kelly Clarkson Show, Variety, and Forbes. She's become a household name in the Jewish community and was honored to MC the 75th anniversary of Israel Reception and to speak at many events, including the March for Israel rally in Washington, D.C., and the National Menorah lighting. Her recent visit to Israel is where she filmed a powerful video at the Nova Music Festival site. We're going to speak as well about the video that you just posted today. And her influence and advocacy continue to inspire and educate a broad audience, particularly the Gen Z population. Once again, help me welcome to Sinai Temple, Montana Tucker.
That was an amazing introduction. I just need that around me all the time. Thank you so much. Thank you.
So we have had a chance, I hope many of you follow Montana Tucker. If you don't, then you'll take out your phones in just a few moments and you'll follow her on all of her social media sites. But what we'd love to do is kind of start at the beginning. Tell us a little bit about your life in Boca Raton. Tell us about your Jewish life, your Jewish upbringing, some of your favorite traditions, and let us get to know you better.
Yes. So I grew up in Boca Raton, Florida. Have any of you in here been to Boca? Anyone from Florida?
Like any Florida?
Oh, yeah. Woo. So I grew up in Boca Raton, Florida, which is a predominantly Jewish area. Both my grandparents are Holocaust survivors. My mom's parents, my mom is here with me. Yay. Woo! So I grew up with hearing the stories about the Holocaust my entire life. The importance of speaking out, of standing up no matter what. So I had that in me my entire life. When I was younger, I started modeling and acting when I was 8 years old. And when it was time for my bat mitzvah, I was doing my, Haftorah studies, but I started missing a lot of my private lessons because I had to go to New York every weekend to do my modeling in New York. So I ended up not having a bat mitzvah at the normal age for a bat mitzvah. And then I went on Birthright when I was 20 years old. And I actually had my bat mitzvah on Birthright at the wall, which was incredible. Very special. But my sister got the name Shayna, so she got the Jewish name. Somehow I got Montana. I don't know how. Mom.
I was thinking about asking you that.
Yeah, everyone thinks it's not my real name, but Montana Tucker is my real name. My Hebrew name is Miriam, if that helps, But just being Jewish was just always a part of who I was, who I am. I think, being Jewish is so much more than just a religion. so much comes with being Jewish. There's so many different ways to be Jewish. I think that's something that I'm also trying to portray and show the world, that people have so many stereotypes of what being Jewish looks like, sounds like, acts like, and I'm trying to show them that it's not just one thing. There's so many different ways to be Jewish. For me, it's the culture, the morals, the values, the spirituality. There's just so much that comes with being Jewish. So I try to portray that in every way. And I think that when I first went on Birthright, of course, it was my first time being introduced to Israel. And that was, anyone that goes to Israel falls in love with Israel. I know I don't have to tell all of you in here. But definitely after October 7th, I feel like it just exploded for me. And we'll get into that a little bit later. But favorite traditions, my grandma Lily, who's still alive today at 96, Holocaust survivor. Thank gosh. Unfortunately, she has Alzheimer's of 16 years, but I just loved growing up with her making matzah brai. She was very good at making matzah brai. My mom always gets embarrassed when I share this, but noodles and cottage cheese. Does anyone know about noodles and cottage cheese? I don't know. It's this Jewish dish that she would make. You know noodles and cottage cheese? Okay. I love noodles and cottage cheese.
My mother over there raised her hand when you said noodles and
Wait,
cottage
where's your mom?
cheese.
Oh, hi. So those were just like some traditions that I feel like my family always had of cooking, and the high holidays together, of course, going to temple for the high holidays, all of that.
Tell us more about your relationship with your grandparents.
My grandparents were and are my whole life. My Zadie passed away 5 years ago at the age of 97. And he was and still is my everything. Him and I had a very, very, very special relationship. I actually still wear, this is his ring that I never take off, his wedding band that I never take off, and his bracelet that I never take off. He had very cool jewelry. And like I said, like they just always shared their stories of survival, of resilience with me. My Zadie specifically would wear pins every day that said survivor, never forget, and never again. And he would literally talk to a wall about his story. Anyone that he would meet, he would sit them down and make sure that they would listen about his story about the Holocaust and about how we can make sure this never happens again. And my grandma too, they would speak at all the schools down in Florida. They did the Shoah Foundation, of course. And when my Zadie passed away, obviously it was an extremely hard time for both my mom and I and my family. And I rewatched the Shoah Foundation testimonials from both my grandparents. And obviously I heard the stories my whole life. I've seen the testimonies before, but rewatching them again after my Zadie passed, and of course as a grown adult, I felt the stories completely differently, and I was like, I need to do something with these stories. Like I need to do something. And I already built my social media platforms on dancing, on singing, on acting, not from my activism at all. And so my mom and I, we were just going to take a trip to Poland. My grandma is a survivor of Auschwitz. And we were going to go to just Poland just to experience it ourselves and just go on a trip. But then we said, hey, I have these millions of followers. I have the opportunity to educate. A lot of my followers are all around the world. But even in the U.S., we all know that Holocaust education isn't forced to being taught in every state in the U.S. alone. Think about around the world. We all know about the Holocaust denial, but there are just people who just genuinely don't know about the Holocaust, which is crazy for us in this room because we all know about the Holocaust, but people around the world, just especially the younger generation, they're not being taught it. Their parents aren't teaching it, so they don't know. So we said, hey, we have to do something with this. So we decided to make this Holocaust educational docuseries called How to Never Forget. It was a 10-part series. Each episode was only 1.5 minutes to 2.5 minutes. And we made it solely for the younger generation because we know the attention spans of these kids these days.
Hiring you for certain deals? Did collaboration cease? What was kind of the reaction when you entered more of the world of combating anti-Semitism?
Oh yeah, I would say when I did my Holocaust series, it wasn't nearly as bad as after October 7th, of course. But when I did the series, that was my first time really introducing my audience to me being Jewish, not because I was hiding it, but because I built my platforms on dancing and singing. So, I posted about my grandparents every so often, or I'm sure I posted things about, Hanukkah or holidays, whatever, but like, it just wasn't what I was doing on my platform. So when I did my series, of course, I got all the comments like, your grandparents should have died and we're not going to stop until you die, or, the Holocaust never happened, or of course you're a Jew making everything about yourself. I got those comments, but the unfollows and the loss of brand deals and everything happened after October 7th when I, started posting a lot. I lost hundreds of thousands of followers. And, I don't care about the quality. I believe quantity. I mean, I believe quality over quantity. Sorry, not quantity. But it was just shocking to me to see like hundreds of thousands of people have that much hate inside of them, when on my platforms, like I'm always, standing for Israel, combating anti-Semitism, but all forms of hate, and all my messages and all my videos end with a message of unity and peace and love. And I'm always trying to do things to unite everybody. And I've never once said anything negative about any other side, of course, besides the terrorists. Sorry. But again, my whole platform is dedicated to bringing people together and love and peace and unity. So that was really shocking to me. And of course, the lack of, I used to do brand deals all the time with, Revlon and Grubhub and all the movie studios. I did Paramount. I would do, they would have a new movie come out and they would hire me to do a promo for their movies, Paramount, Universal, DreamWorks. I mean, you name it. I was always doing brand deals. That was my thing. On TikTok alone, I have 9.2 million followers just on TikTok. So brand deals was multiple a week. And after October 7th, like no brand flat out told us that this is why they're not hiring me, but it just went from 100 to 0. And the only brands now that reach out to me are ones that specifically say, like, we love your activism. Thank you so much for what you're doing. So yeah, it was crazy. And dancers in the dance community, dancers that I've danced with for 5 years, that I've collaborated with on hundreds of videos, I've done so many jobs with, they have flat out told me they won't collaborate with me anymore because of my stance for Israel. So it's definitely hurtful and definitely shocking. But honestly, like the more hate, and I get death threats every day. I'm sure many of you in this room, I'm sure if you've spoken out in any way, I'm sure you've received the same, unfortunately. But honestly, all of that just fuels me even more and shows me even more why I'm doing this and more why I have to do this. And there's no other option. And we talk about only the negative, which it's important to talk about the negative, but also the love and support that I have gotten from the Jewish community around the world, and also not Jewish community. Like my following, because it isn't just Jewish, it's amazing to see like the power of social media and what these videos that I make, these crazy ideas that I have for videos sometimes, like they actually do make an impact. And with the Jewish community, especially the younger Jewish community, for, kids to write me saying, I was ashamed to be Jewish and I took my Magen David off because I was ashamed and didn't want anyone to know I'm Jewish. But then I saw you and how prideful you are and how proud to be Jewish you are. You made me put mine back on, and you made me start a club in my school. So thank you. So to me, like yes, it's come with a lot of negative, but to see the impact and the positivity, or like when I wore the dress at the Grammys, the Bring Them Home dress, little girls were dressing up as me for Purim.
That's right.
And I couldn't even believe it. Like, I mean, I would have never in a million years, if you would have told me this years ago, like little girls would be dressing up as me for Purim, I'd be like, you're right. Like, no way. So it's really special. And it's important to talk about all the negativity because it does come with that, but it also has made a beautiful impact in a positive way.
I mean, I have to tell you, when we were watching the Grammys, we kept asking ourselves, will anyone wear something? Will anyone wear a yellow pin or, Israeli flag? Will anyone do it? And you were the only one. It felt like you were the only one. And so to hear you speak with such conviction and passion and pride, you just have to know, for all of us to see you stand up that way, we are beaming with gratitude for you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
No, for me, like I was in all these, WhatsApp group chats of people trying to just get people to wear the yellow pins at previous award shows. And like no one was doing it, of course. And I got asked to go to the Grammys to like walk the carpet and the whole thing. And they had no idea I was going to do that. That's for sure. But I knew I had to do something, and I knew I had to make it big because I knew the yellow pin wasn't going to be enough. And I knew I had to do something. I contacted an Israeli designer here in LA. My whole team was Israeli, my hair and makeup, my dress, everyone was Israeli. And we had like less than a week to create this dress. At the time, Ortal, the designer, I don't think she's very happy, but now she's very happy. She's the best. And honestly, like I mean, can I share a quick story about the dress? So, I got to the Grammys, I did the carpet, the whole thing. And like, they have someone that takes your purse for you and, you know, you walk the carpet, do the thing. And like, of course I was getting the craziest stares and the whole thing. And then after I finished, the lady comes up to me like in a hurry and she's like, all right, did you get all your like content? Did you finish everything? I'm like, no, you took my purse. Like, I didn't do anything. And she's like, okay, well, comms called and they're very disappointed in your dress. And they said that it's too political and we don't do politics here at the Grammys. Wow. And obviously inside I'm like dying, but I go to her, I go, that's interesting. I go, my dress actually is not political at all. Are you aware of what this ribbon stands for? And I think the lady was just relaying a message, you know, I don't think she knew. And so she's like, well, is it possible for you to remove the ribbon? And I'm like, no, but even if it was, absolutely not. And she's like, all right, well, you can go back out there, but unfortunately we're not gonna be able to share any of your content, or we're not gonna be able to like, you know, really do anything with you. So I was like, all right, I go back out there. And then 2 minutes later, Harvey Mason Jr., who's actually the head of the entire Recording Academy, is incredible. And he came up to me and he goes, wow, thank you for wearing that dress. Like, that is amazing. And he goes, can we take a photo? So yes, he deserves a round of applause because he is not Jewish, and he did a whole tribute to Nova that night, and he had Palestinian and Israeli orchestra together in unity. And so that was really special. But yeah, and you know, I usually like post behind the scenes of me getting ready for these events. Like, I didn't post anything yet. It wasn't on my phone. I sat down in my seat. I take out my phone. My phone's like going crazy. And what meant the most to me is to have, because I already built relationships with a lot of the hostage families at that point. And the Grammys were in February after October 7th. I went back to Israel for the first time in December of that year. Not my first time to Israel, but since October 7th. So I already built these relationships with the hostage families. And to see the messages from them and have them write me saying just like, thank you so much, that we finally feel like someone outside of our echo chamber is like standing for us on a bigger scale. And then now the hostages that are released, that I built relationships with, for them to see that I did that for them when they were still in captivity, it was just really special for me. So
incredible. So now walk us through, you have been combating anti-Semitism, you are promoting Holocaust education, this is becoming a huge part of your platform, and October 7th hits. Walk us through that day for you.
Oof. I'm sure I'm not the only one that felt this way. I keep saying lately, like, I don't know if it's necessarily generational trauma or what it can necessarily be exactly. But when October 7th happened, I felt like my whole world just completely shattered. I didn't have any direct family involved in October 7th, but now I feel like it's my entire family. I'm sure a lot of us in here feel the same. I think that's something just about the Jewish people in general, right? That when something happens to any of us, we feel like it's an attack on all of us. And I just was completely shattered. I actually didn't leave my place until there was a rally in Beverly Hills that I marched with Floyd Mayweather and I spoke at. And that was like my first rally ever, like Israel rally, Jewish rally. And I think that moment really shifted a lot for me because I was surrounded by so many people who also felt the same. And I knew that I wasn't alone in this feeling, and I knew that I had to do something and really do something. And for me, I knew I have 14 million followers. If I have the opportunity to make a difference and make an impact, and I know that I'm standing for humanity, I know I'm on the right side of history, I know all these things, and I know that I have to do everything I can to stand up. And I wanted to go to Israel like October 8th, but my strict Jewish mother right there wasn't necessarily letting me go until December. But you know, and that's why it's been so important for me to go to Israel 4 different times and share personal stories, because I think that's what makes a difference, is showing the humanity and showing that these were innocent people, mothers, fathers, kids, grandkids. And if you go on my social media account, you will see I've shared so many personal stories, whether they're Nova survivors, whether they're released hostages, whether they're, family members of the hostages. And with all the denial, I'm like, hey, I'm physically here. So you can deny whatever you want. I'm physically here. I'm seeing it with my own eyes. And yes, it's not moving the needle as big as we need it to, but if you read through the comments on a lot of my posts, you will see people commenting that aren't Jewish, that aren't necessarily pro-Israel, and they'll see one of my videos and they'll say, wow, this opened my eyes. Like, I didn't see it this way before. Thank you for sharing. Or the messages I get from people are just so special and so incredible. And, people ask me with all the loss of my brand deals or the death threats I get every day or the, hate it comes with if I would ever, go back and wish I didn't do this. Like, I can't imagine not doing this. Like, there genuinely is no other option, like genuinely. And I think that should be the same for everybody. And you don't have to have the millions of followers to be doing something. And even by all of you showing up here tonight is you guys doing something. And I'm sure you've done so much in your communities. And that is something that I feel is so special about, what happened on October 7th was beyond terrible, disgusting, terrible, sad, heartbreaking. But I have seen Jews step up since October 7th. And non-Jews, like I have to shout out to my friend Darcy, who is here, because Darcy is not Jewish, and she's an amazing trainer. She's my EMS trainer, but also my good friend now. But she has, since October 7th, been so supportive, and she's gone to so many events, and she's donated. She wears a Jewish star sometimes, she's wearing it on her neck that I gave her. And she's just such a special human. And I've seen so many allies also that have had our back and stand up for us since the 7th. So yes, October 7th changed my life, but it's also, I've met so many incredible people throughout the work that I've been doing. I'm now so close with a lot of the released hostages, their families. I speak to them every single day. I made a documentary, which I know we're going to talk about. And I just my whole world has changed. And now I want to do, and that's why every day I'm doing something for Israel or combating anti-Semitism, literally every day. And I won't stop. Yeah.
I do want to transition to your documentary, The Children of October 7th, but I also want to mention prior to that, I feel like Montana was one of the first people I started to see. You would start posting conversations that you would have with people on the Santa Monica Pier. And I kept thinking, what is she doing? She's stopping random people at the pier, and in a very loving, empathetic way, you would just ask a question, and so at some point, if we have time, I'd love for you to get back to that. I'd love for you to speak a little bit about those conversations.
I can mention it now.
If you'd like to, sure. I think it's fascinating that you're speaking with just people going about their day, asking them why don't you share a little bit about what you learned from that experience?
Yes, so I do a lot of these videos in public, whether it's Santa Monica Pier, Times Square, Washington Square Park in New York. Washington Square Park is crazy. The people that are there right now. Oh my God, that's a whole different story. It's all the people in the encampments just hang out at Washington Square Park. So it's a fun crowd. My mom's always there having so much anxiety the whole time watching me do these videos. It's good. My mom is the most supportive, and I'm very thankful. She's also my manager. She's been on every trip to Israel, everything I've done, she's there by my side. But these videos in public, not only do these videos get millions of views, which is incredible, and we're thankful because it reaches people around the world, the impactful conversations that I have with people in person are so incredible. We'll edit these videos into a minute and a half, but I'm there sometimes 3 hours meeting people, talking to people. And we obviously can't put it all into a minute and a half video. Algorithm, they want to, the whole thing. But I try to always do different concepts, right? So one time I took an IDF soldier, and his story was insane of what happened to him, and I took him, we hold up these signs, so that's how we get the people's attention to come up and talk to us. And his sign was, I'm an IDF soldier that almost got killed by a terrorist, ask me anything. And of course there are a lot of people who hate the IDF, which I don't understand, because the IDF is the most incredible moral, amazing army. And so we had a lot of interesting conversations then. I did an amazing video with a Muslim Arab peace activist named Loai Al-Sharif, who's amazing. And he held a sign up that said, I'm an Arab Muslim and I support the only Jewish state of Israel. And I held up a sign that said that I'm a Jewish American and I support peace with the Middle East. And then we said, ask us anything. The amount of like disgusting stares he got. Wow. Like people couldn't believe that an Arab Muslim was supporting Israel. Like people could not understand that concept. So, and we have it all on tape. It's on my Instagram if you want to check it out, but people were giving him the craziest looks. Then we had someone from Ireland, which I think it's important to talk about, with also what is going on in Ireland. And I know the Israeli embassy just pulled out of Ireland and whatever. That's a whole other story. Someone from Ireland, this man who was there with his wife and 2 young kids, saw he was being taped, did not care. In the video, he comes up to me and he said, Hitler had the right idea about you guys. Jews are the reason for all the problems in the world. This is all on tape. Said it loud and proud in front of his kids, in front of his wife. They didn't say anything, do anything. And I'm like, you have no skin in this game. Like, you have no ties to the Middle East. Like, what is your issue, right? And then we had this lady, she was wrapped in a hijab and she was like filming us and I couldn't gauge her, what she was doing. So I said, hi. I was like, we're just here, you know, promoting unity and peace and wanting to have conversations. And she's like, I support you. And I was like, where are you from? And she said, Palestine. And I said, can I have a hug? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, thank you so much. And we gave each other a hug and it was this beautiful moment that I'm so grateful for. And then we had a group of like young college students that were Muslim. They came up and they, you know, saw his sign and they were very confused about his sign. They weren't rude or confrontational. They were just confused. And they had a most amazing conversation with Loai. It's in the video, but they were talking to Loai for like over 30 minutes, these kids. And they were debating. I wouldn't say it was confrontational. They were definitely debating in a healthy way, I would say. But the ending conversation was so beautiful because they were just being educated and they said, wow, I genuinely didn't know this. Like, you know what? I'm going to look this up more. Like, thank you. And we all hugged and they didn't necessarily 100% agree with us, but they were appreciative of the conversation and they were really wanting to learn. And you don't know the spiral effect that it's going to have, right? They're going to go back to maybe their parents or their friends and share what they learned, or they're going to actually go and research. So these videos in public are so important and educational. Like for me, education is the most important. And that's why I always try to have, you know, with my content, I try to educate. And I think that's the most important thing, to also to have conversations. People are so scared these days to just have a conversation with somebody that thinks differently than you or looks differently than you or has a different view. Try to have a conversation. You never know where that conversation can end.
Thank you for that. But I also want to add, I'm sure we're all feeling the same way. It feels like Montana Tucker's our best friend. What do you want? Yeah, absolutely.
No, please.
Oh, no.
Of course. No.
It's okay.
Drink the water.
I think you just exactly made my point. That truly, it feels like you are kind of in our living room right now and that we could ask you anything. I know it's the best.
We're all mishpacha here.
We're all mishpacha, exactly. But I think because you're so humble, I don't think you'll say it. The fact that you are so, you have this ability to disarm others. And so the fact that you're in these conversations with people on the street, I'm not sure if any of us could just go up and have that same kind of, I hope we could, but you enter the conversation with a way in which people want to walk towards you. And so what I'd love for you to do is speak now about the Children of October 7th and this documentary, because I think it is due to who you are at your core as to why it is so successful.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So The Children of October 7th is a documentary that I recently filmed. You know, I've worked a lot with children over my career in dancing. If you go on my Instagram, you'll see all these really cute, fun dance videos with like 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds. I don't know how they have so much talent at 6 years old and 7 years old. But I just like always, I love children so much. And we got approached by the same team who did Sheryl Sandberg's Screams Before Silence documentary to do this documentary about the children. And my mom and I, of course, they reached out to my mom. We said, we want to do it pro bono. We don't want to get paid for it. And I said, absolutely, like immediately I wanted to do this. And I was so grateful for the opportunity. And the response from the children of like being excited to interview with me, I'm still so grateful, because a lot of them maybe like haven't really shared their story. I interviewed children from the ages of 11 to 17. Are there any, where are the kids in here? Do we have any kids?
Over here, raise your hand.
What's the youngest?
I think we're 12 and 13.
Okay.
The youngest.
Okay.
Yeah? I think so.
So should I, like,
I think
it's okay? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I won't get into too much detail just to be safe and sound. But they're children who either, were taken hostage and, released in a hostage deal, who, saw Hamas murder their parents, unfortunately, in front of them, or who still have parents who are in Gaza still to this day. And they're 11 to 17. These are things that should never happen to any child. I felt personally connected because my grandmother was 13 years old when she was taken to Auschwitz, and when she had to witness her mother get beaten and dragged to the gas chambers. So there's a lot of reasons why I felt personally attached to something like this. And when I filmed this documentary, there was one time I really broke down, and you see it. I posted a lot of short clips on my Instagram account that if you have a chance to check it out. And we're the full length is done. We're trying to find a home for it right now, a streamer for it, because I believe it needs to be on like a Netflix or something. So we're still working on that. But, the resilience in these kids is just something that you can't even explain. They're sharing these stories with me, and you see it in their eyes, but then like the will to live and to continue to live. And again, I don't want to go into too much detail since we do have some younger kids in here, but their stories, you can't even fathom what these kids have gone through. And, but then also to be there with them. And some of them knew me from TikTok, right? Some of the kids like followed me. And at the end of these interviews that were so hard, I made sure that we did something fun with them afterwards. So a lot of them, I filmed like little dance videos with them. Or Rotem, who's a 16-year-old who lost both of his parents. We did like a karaoke together. Eitan, who is 12 years old, who was a hostage. He was taken to Gaza on a motorbike, and now he rides motorbikes as therapy. Wow. And it's so incredibly beautiful. So after our interview, we went and he showed me like how he does his motorbike training and I met all his friends, and we just had like a really special, beautiful moment. And then also to hear from his friends who the whole time while he was gone, they were fighting for his release. And you see interviews of all his friends crying and screaming that their best friend is held hostage. It's just, there's so much around it, right? Like I think there's so many, and I was actually corrected by the uncle of Rotem. They aren't stories, they're testimonies. Right? And there's so much around these testimonies that we only hear one side. Even if one person is sharing, you don't think about the family members affected or their friends affected. There's so many people that are affected from one person getting injured or murdered or taken hostage. There's so many people that are involved in this war, this conflict, this everything. So why I think this documentary is so important, because there has been a lot of documentaries that have come out since October 7th, and they're all so important. But this one is told directly from the children. And we don't discuss the conflict at all in it. They just discuss what happened to them on that day and what has continued to happen to them for the rest of the year. And it's so important that these stories are heard and seen by the entire world. And I would say it's the most important project I've ever done. Yeah.
Please. Before I open it up to questions, can you just speak a little bit about the video that you released today?
Yes, so sorry, it was yesterday that I released, and I did this video before where, after October 7th, I was having a hard time blending my worlds. I had my dancing, my singing, my acting on one side, and then I had my activism on another side. And I always associated dancing and singing and acting with like bringing happiness and joy to everybody. And my dance videos are very fun and bright and vibrant. So I felt like I couldn't do that because what's going on in the world is not fun and not bright, not vibrant. And so I was having a hard time, merging my worlds. But then I had this idea, people went to the Nova Music Festival to dance. And they were music lovers and dance lovers. And I felt the best way to honor them would be to dance and to do a dance video. So I went back to the Nova site, not, of course, where the memorial is, but where they actually had to run away, or some of them ran away, I'm sorry. And I went with a bunch of Nova survivors. I collaborated with an Israeli dance company who lost 3 of their members at Nova. And we did this beautiful dance tribute, a very emotional dance tribute to Nova. And I also had a released hostage, Moran Stelly and I, in the video, and I had many Nova survivors in the video, and it was extremely, extremely powerful. And that video reached a whole different audience. It got outside of the echo chamber because people thought they were watching a dance video, and then they were hit with the reality of what happened to Nova halfway through. So I wanted to do something similar for the hostages. It's been over a year, 438 days, I believe is today, 37, 38. And there are 100 hostages, as we all know, that are still there, babies, women, and elderly. And so I wanted to do a dance video to honor them. So I collaborated again with a different Israeli dance company, and I had 3 released hostages in the video. And then I had many, many family members of hostages that are still there. And it's an extremely powerful video through dance. I also dressed in the clothes of Nama Levy, who I'm sure many of you have seen her terrible video of when she was taken hostage. And it's an extremely hard but powerful video, and it's I tell the story through dance. I believe art is something really important in this world, and you can tell powerful stories and you can reach different audiences through art. So this video is about the hostages through art. So if you have a chance to check it out, it's on my Instagram account.
And I know we spoke about this before, and I hope it's okay that I'm asking you to do this, but some of the released hostages sent you notes after you released the video. And so if you don't mind sharing what Noah shared with you.
Yes. So Noah Argamani, I'm sure many of you know her. She's amazing. She was rescued in a crazy rescue mission. And I actually have done a lot of events with FIDF, and I've met the soldiers who rescued her. And it's just, one of them was killed, and I've also met his parents. And it was a really special event with FIDF because Noah was there and the parents of the soldier who rescued her. So it's just unreal. Noah was supposed to be in the video, but then she was unavailable for the video. So she sends me this text today. Hi, my sweetie. I'm so proud of you for all your hard work. It's amazing for me to watch that and to see how deeply you understand the situation, because I was exactly like you in the captivity. Thank you for showing the world what is really happening in captivity. It's hard to illustrate this situation to the world. And then she put the heart. So messages like that for me just are really, really special, because again, like I'm trying to do everything I can for them, and to know that they are just thankful and feel that someone's speaking out for them. Her boyfriend is still in captivity, actually. And I don't know if you know the story, but her mother was battling terrible cancer the whole time, terminal terrible cancer. And Noah got to see her mother like the day before, like she was released, and then her mother, I believe, died the next day. So it's just crazy. But yes, that's why I'm so personally involved now. You know, I've built such strong relationships with all of them. So now I do feel like it's my family. And that's why I do feel like I have to every day do something. Yeah.
And if that's not inspiration, I'm not sure what is. I'm looking at the time, but I think we have some time for a few questions, and I want to make sure that you have the microphone, another microphone, Amanda. First of all, thank you so much to Amanda Harrison for all of your hard work. Woo! Thank you. Anyone have a question that they'd like to ask Montana?
Yeah.
Michelle.
Um, so people have different reactions when they see kids involved with things. What has been the difference in response online from the videos with the children versus your other activism videos?
That's a great question. I think that is something that is so interesting that like anytime I post about Israel, there are always hundreds of comments that say, but what about the children in Palestine? What about Israel bombing and killing all the children in Palestine? Like I always get those comments. Like no matter what I say or do, like those like it could have absolutely nothing even to do with Israel, and they still write those comments to me. And it's terrible. Like we all can't sit here and deny what is going on there is sad and terrible. Like any death is terrible, and war is terrible. I say this all the time, like any war, if you look at the history of any war, there are always civilian deaths, and it's terrible. And I believe in any war, no one wins because there's always destruction and deaths in war, and it's terrible. But no one talks about the Israeli children. No one talks about the children in Israel that have been affected. And there are so many children that have been affected by this. Even post October 7th, all the fallen soldiers, what about all their children? Like, there are so many children. I also my past trip to Israel that I just got back from a little over a week ago, I just got back from Israel. I met with one of the girls the survivors of the Majdal Shams soccer attack. A Druze kid who witnessed many of her friends get killed by a Hezbollah attack. And first of all, no one talks about that enough, of course. But there's so many children that are affected in this war, and especially in Israel, and not just Jewish children, Arab children, Druze children, Christian children, all kinds of children that are affected by this. But again, I felt it wasn't being talked about enough. So that's why I felt the documentary was even more important. And yes, the reactions from people, if you look through the comments, from people who are not Israeli or not Jewish or not necessarily pro-Israel, of them, like I mentioned before, saying like, wow, I can't imagine, like, what if this was my child? Or what if this was my sibling? Like, I can't imagine. This is so terrible. I feel so bad. And they're not Jewish or they're not pro-Israel. So yes, talking about children, I think, does affect people differently, which is, again, why I think the documentary is something that is so important for the whole world to see, not just like social media or our echo chamber, because these are innocent children who have nothing to do with this war or this conflict. And now their whole lives, like if they survived, yes, they survived. But this is going to be trauma that is going to stay with them for the rest of their lives. I interviewed them a year after the conflict. A year after October 7th. And the trauma that they're still dealing with and that they will deal with for the rest of their lives, that needs to be talked about. So, yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
I feel like the silent majority is actually pro-Israel, but people just don't talk. The people who are writing all these things for you online, it's just full of hate, but it's not the majority of people. I feel like people do understand that these are terrorists, even though we can't say that they're terrorists, and it's just being politically correct. What do you feel about that?
That's actually important. We were talking about that earlier. I've had so many people behind the scenes message me, and huge celebrities also message me behind the scenes being like, thank you so much for what you're doing. Like, wow, you're amazing. Or come up to me in person, whatever it is. And then some of them I'll ask them like, so what are you like, have you done anything? Have you posted anything? And they're like, in the beginning I did like a little bit, but I just started getting so much hate and, I can't risk my career. I can't, risk this, risk that. And to me, that's just so crazy that like standing up for Israel or just like talking about your Jewish, even just talking about people's Jewish identity, like so many Jews in Hollywood, especially don't even talk about being Jewish now because they feel like it's so controversial. And they're people who built their whole careers on being Jewish. Like their whole like shtick was like being funny and Jewish, or whatever. And it's really hard for me to have empathy for those people. I'm sorry. Like it's really hard for me because, especially with my grandparents that would always talk to me about this. And, we were just saying this before too, like back then when the Holocaust happened, it didn't matter how famous you were, how successful you were, how rich you were. Like, let's say social media existed back then, how many followers you would have had. It doesn't matter, because if you were Jewish, also let's say you were quiet and Jewish, or you weren't proud to be Jewish, like it didn't matter. You were on that list, and that was it for you, no matter how Jewish you were. So obviously another Holocaust is not going to happen. But let's say in some alternate universe, another Holocaust were to happen. All these people that are staying silent, and all these people that are not doing anything and that are supporting behind the scenes, you're right there. So it's really hard for me to have empathy. Like, I understand people don't have to like dedicate their entire lives like me. Like, I can understand that. But like the fact that these people that are so established in their careers and lives that like genuinely have nothing to lose. Like, I'm sorry, like you are set for life. Your kids are set for life. Your grandkids are set for life. Like, let's say you speak out and you don't book another job again, which we know is not going to happen. But let's say that happens. Like, you're good. So do it. Like, do something, say something, because no one wants to be the first. Everyone is scared to be the first, you know? And no one wants to be the first. And so that's why it's hard for me to have so much empathy for these people who are silent behind the scenes. Now, listen, if they're like donating to Israel behind the scenes a lot of money, and they're like doing something else, like, okay, I can give them a little bit more credit if they're actually doing something behind the scenes. But the ones that aren't doing anything, it's really hard for me to like understand. I don't know. That might be a controversial answer, but I'm sorry. Yeah.
I don't think it's controversial in this group. Any other questions? Please, Rachel.
Hi. You are very resilient, very strong. It's really, really admirable. And I'm curious, when things turned for you and you weren't getting your contracts and your promos and you were getting all of this hate, did you have to kind of check yourself, and like, did you reach sort of a hard point where you're like, what's going on? Or was it just something in you that you were able to rise above it? You know, like that transition, I'm sure, was really hard. Like, I'm just curious about what that was like for you.
I think like leading up to October 7th, because I already released my Holocaust educational docuseries, and I was already, doing a lot of work in the space. Like, I hosted Israel's 75th anniversary with Michael Herzog and Kamala Harris, Doug Emhoff. And so I was already doing a lot of work like in the space, but again, I wasn't dedicating my life, of course, like I am now, and I still was getting all the brand deals and all the work then. I think because, again, like I said, my mom's my manager, my biggest support. Like, I always had her support right there with me, to know that I'm doing the right thing. I think it was definitely hurtful and shocking, especially from peers of mine, to like stop working with me. But I don't think there was ever a moment that I was like, I need to stop doing this. Like, I think even though I was hurt, and even though I was sad, or even though I was angry, I think like I said before, it kind of showed me even more why I have to do this, that unfortunately, like, we are outnumbered, and there aren't many people like me, unfortunately, that are doing this. We have some really strong people that have our backs. We do. We have to make sure we call them out, but there aren't enough of us. We're just outnumbered, unfortunately. So that's why I knew I had to make my voice louder to speak for many that, aren't doing it, or especially on the social media, that's another war that we're fighting, the digital war. And it's a hard one. It's a really hard one. But I think all of the hate that it comes with, it just kind of fuels me even more. Yeah.
So I'm going to, I think, close with two questions in one. So first of all, we all want to know, the fact is, we can't tire this woman, right? I'm just incredibly impressed that you just keep going and going and going. And so I feel a little bad asking this question, but curious what's next. So that's one. And then woven into that, I know that Hanukkah is one of your favorite holidays. And so I'm wondering if you'll share with all of us some of the miracles that you've witnessed this year.
Okay, we'll start with the second question, because I think that's a great question. This year was intense. We can't deny it. It was hard. It was intense. It was sad. It made a lot of us mad. We can't deny that. But I kind of touched on this earlier. Like, I have seen the Jewish community come together in a way that I've never seen in my entire life. Like, I don't know about you guys, but, you know, I've gone around the world to speak this past year, like 60 speaking engagements, I think, something crazy like that. So yes, I am tired, but it's okay. But all for a good reason. I think that is what keeps me going, is that like, I know I'm speaking about something that I'm so passionate about. And if I have the opportunity to make a difference by speaking to a group of people, I have to do it. You know, I have to do it. And I've spoken at events that aren't just Jewish events as well. I've spoken, there was an event that I spoke at, Christians for Israel in San Diego, with like pastors preaching about Israel. It was so beautiful. We had a counter protest there, though. That was fun. But like, I think those are the miracles that I feel like I've seen people in the Jewish community and non-Jewish community come out and say, this is not okay, and we're going to do something about this. I mean, right after October 7th, the amount of events that were happening, it was crazy. People were putting together these events that were like incredible and raised so much money for Israel. And I thought it was just so beautiful to see that again, you don't have to have the followers on social media to do something. If you have the financial means to be able to donate, or to just show up at an event, or to talk to your colleagues or your peers about this, you know, I have seen people step up in ways. And then I think we also talk about the students that I've seen. You know, what has gone on the campuses has been insane, and not just in college campuses, on high schools, and even middle schools. The messages I'm getting from people in middle school of what they're experiencing, it's insane. But it's also like brought out this new, like, fierce pride in these young people. And I've met so many leaders, like student leaders, that have turned their lives around also to standing for Israel and combating anti-Semitism, but also doing it in such a beautiful, loving way. And something I always say to them is never stoop to their level. You always lead with love. You never, you know, get combative like them, no matter what they say or do. You always just keep being prideful, and keep sharing your love, and keep sharing your joy to be Jewish. And so those are the miracles that I feel like I've seen. What's next for me? Well, in the past week and a half, I've been to Israel, Atlanta, Scottsdale, Arizona, and now here. But I am going back to Israel in January. I'm filming a movie in Israel, which is really exciting. I'm actually the only American actor in it, and it's all Israeli actors from Fauda, the show Fauda, that are in it. So that's really exciting. I'm hoping to get this Children of October 7th on a streamer. Let's all cross our fingers and toes that a Netflix or something like that gets it on there, because that's really important to me. I'm hoping to do a college tour next year, to go around to all the colleges, because again, reaching the younger generation is very, very important to me. I'm filming another movie actually with one of your fellow Sinai Temple, Jonah Platt, actually, called The Mensch. We're filming this movie called The Mensch that I'm filming in March in Scottsdale. So that's going to be really fun.
We just do a shout out for Jonah.
Shout out, Jonah. We love you. Woo!
And Jonah has a new podcast, Being Jewish Podcast. So
yes, I was on it. Yes.
Montana was on it. Make sure to follow him. So we can't wait to see that.
He's the best. What am I missing, Mom? Oh yeah, I'm performing at the opening ceremony for the Maccabea Games in Israel in July. Yeah, so I'm super excited about that. I'm also emceeing the gala the night before, but this is their first year back. They were supposed to do it last year, and then of course with everything going on, they didn't do it. So this year is going to be their biggest year. I'm so honored, very honored that I have this opportunity, and I have a new song coming out that I'm performing. So I'm very excited about that. Yes.
So I just want to end with two things. First of all, I was speaking to Montana and your beautiful, talented mom beforehand, and I let them know that they always have a home here at Sinai Temple, and if they need a place on the High Holy Days, you have seats right up front.
Thank
we
you.
are excited to welcome you
And I
back.
have to thank Julia, wherever Julia is, because where's Julia? Yay, Julia. Julia is the reason why I'm here, so thank you.
Julia, thank you so much. And I just wanted to end with a quick piece of Torah. You know, on the dreidel, we have the various letters on the dreidel that spell out Nes Gadol Haya Sham, if you're here in the States, if you're here in the diaspora, which means a great miracle happened there. But we know in Israel, it switched to Po, from shin to pei. A great miracle happened here. So when you're in Israel, you say here. When you are in the diaspora, you say there. And I was thinking about this, that there are certain people in this world who have the kinds of gifts to create miracles there so that they can experience it in real time. Every single time you open your mouth, every time you have an idea, every time you choose to collaborate and bridge your talents of dancing with activism, when you speak to someone on the street or when you speak to a child survivor of October 7th, you are creating miracles with every step you take. Miracles that you are doing here so that it's experienced there. So while at different points in your career and on this path, you may tire or feel alone, just know that you have every single one of us behind you. Yeah. So grateful for who you are. I know I asked you about miracles, but you are the miracle maker.
And this is why she's a rabbi. No, thank you so much. Wow, thank you so much. And thank you all for coming tonight and supporting the work that I'm doing. And like I said, we're all in this together. We're all doing our parts in different ways. You know, everyone thanks me all the time, and I'm grateful for that. But I really mean it when I say all of you being here, you guys are doing your part. And I know you guys are doing a lot in your community. So I'm grateful for all of you as well. And again, we have to look at it as Jews have to be united now. I think that's another thing we have to mention. There are a lot of Jews, I feel like, that aren't united during this time. But this is the time we all need to be united. We're all fighting for the same thing, and we all need to come together and do whatever we can together, not separate. We all need to be together and united during this time. So thank you all so much.
I think we should rise and give a standing ovation personally. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you all so much for coming. Thank you.